I'm back with the next part of my Learn React Free series, covering Scrimba's aforementioned course. Changes with me today just before we get going. This isn't styled. That is bedhead. I've not had a shower yet, and it will not go down. Look. It does a bit. It has. There you go. I've got some new bins. I lost my others. Right, without further ado, we're now on custom components. Bonk, as we see there. So let's get going. Shift and 6. I'm back on StreamYard. I fired off that melon. It's too hard to use. StreamYard's better. Really easy to use. Right, custom components. Let's get rid of that. Do you need me? I'll say yes. It's a lesson. Right, Bob. What have you got for us?
We talked about the possibility.
The audio is not correctly routed. Or is it? Yeah, it's coming out of the. Do bear with. Speakers should be coming out my AirPods. Right. I hope you can hear this. This is going to be the worst screencast ever. Right, custom components, where we go.
Ability in React to create our own custom components. What we currently have going on is we're saving our JSX elements here, our React elements, in a variable, and then rendering that variable directly with react-dom.render. And although this has been working for us so far, it doesn't allow us a lot of flexibility when it comes to creating our own components in React. And even further, it's also pretty obvious we wouldn't want to take all of our markup and stuff it directly into react-dom.render, even though I think technically this might work just fine. Actually, I'm curious. Let's give this a shot. I'll comment this out. Okay, so everything is technically still working, but we run into the same issue as we used to in kind of the old days of creating HTML code, where if we're trying to stuff everything into one place, not only do the elements not become reusable, but it becomes really difficult to maintain as a developer. So creating our variable up here got us one step closer, but it's still not quite good enough. Instead, what we are going to start learning about is creating our own custom components. Now, I give you a taste of this early on in the course, but we're going to actually learn it the real way now. In programming, the concept of a function is one that allows us to write some code that we can then execute over and over and over again just by calling that function. And React adopts this same concept of having a function that allows us to create user interface or create elements over and over and over again if we wanted to. Knowing how functions work, it's really tempting to say, okay, well, I'm going to create a function, and let's give it a temporary name for just a second. And we might say, well, I have a function, and I want it to return my UI, my elements here, anytime that function gets called. So I might try something like this. Let me get rid of page here, and then instead of page, we might say, well, let's call our temporary name function, and that is going to return the React elements that we asked it to, and therefore we have a function that we can reuse. Well, let's see what happens. Look at that. It actually worked. And what we have here is basically 90% of the way into creating our own custom components. A function like this that returns React elements is considered in React a component. However, there's a couple of conventions that we need to follow for everything to work correctly all the time. The first one is we need to use Pascal case instead of camel case for our component names. All that means is I need to capitalize the first letter of my component. And secondly, instead of calling this function with parentheses like we might be used to, we actually need to wrap it in angle brackets similar to an HTML element. And I still need to change this to a capital letter there. And that's the only changes we need to make from a regular JavaScript function that you have probably written hundreds of by now, and a React component that uses the same concept of functions to create reusable user interface pieces. You'll see if I hit save, everything is still working as we would expect. Okay, maybe you can feel it. It's time for a practice. I'm actually going to erase everything because you are going to write everything again from scratch. First, I'll write out the challenge for you. Okay, I've erased our code and saved it so that our page went away. This challenge is going to be given to you in two parts. The first part is to create an ordered list that enumerates the reasons why you're excited to be learning React. Don't spend too much time trying to
Enumerates. Why use words? that are more complicated than they need to be. I'm going to have to Google what that means. Enumerates. Stuff about programming. Use unnecessary, complicated language. It stops people from picking it up. To name things separately one by one, right? Make a list.
Come up with a huge list. Just put a few things in an ordered list. And then I want you to render your list to the page. This is going to require you to remember all of the steps that we've learned so far on the basics of setting up a React app. So pause the screencast and work on part 1 of this challenge.
Rant over. Parentheses and enumerates. Fuck's sake. Brackets and make a list. That's how you should be describing things, right? Let's get going. Part 1, create a page of your own using a custom page component. It should return an ordered list. The reasons why you're excited to learn React. Render your list to the page. Right. It's out of the way. What's that to import? It's import React, wasn't it? Import React. Import DOM. With the quotes the other way around. What's that lowercase? Let's look at dependency. DOM. Let's match that up. So, enabling JSX. That gives you access to the React DOM variable with all the functions attached to it, I guess. Right. Create a page of your own using the custom page component. So he said, rather than putting a variable function, Pascal casing, what should we call it? Functions in JavaScript. So you have to go to the LMS function. Shit, did he have those? I can't remember. We have that. Okay. Uh, knowing that Emmet doesn't work, or that. Plate. It's wrong. Maybe there's a way to do it. We're on to Scrimba. Scrimba's got a good Discord channel. I'll ask them. Is there a general help? So I'll just tell you what I'm doing. I'm on the Scrimba channel. Scrimba support. Okay. Is there plans? Scrimba code editor. Anyway, so tags. So happy. Also, a shortcut shortcuts. Code completion cheat sheet anywhere. Urge anyone to join that Scrimba community. It's really good. I am a pro subscriber to it, so you get a bit more of. I'll leave that open while I'm doing this. Right. So UL. I'm seeing him in a video with old Bob. You've got loads of these list items to. Complete and autocomplete. What's that? Oh, no. So we're gonna have to paste. Work next to a. I've just noticed on StreamYard it had a little background music. Should we put a bit on? I like that. Daydreaming. Bit loud. Don't like silence. Feeding the ducks. Let's go with feeding the ducks. Puts you into nice zen, doesn't it? That? Too loud. Let's go with 12. Right. Sit up, I'm slouching. I need a new chair. Why I'm excited to be learning React. Learning new things is fun. Will make my better. Is increase my career opportunities, earn more money, makes but that's painful. Can build cool shit with it. That's enough. Right, so yes, traditional methods. So React DOM render. Now, how did he call this function? Angle brackets, he said, didn't he? Guess this ain't gonna work. What is it? We're just calling this function and applying it to the boot div as usual. Root, yeah. It's obviously wrong because code completion is turned off. Document dot element. Can't be right, can it? Just put that in for now. We'll go back. Let's put the React logo in again. All HTML and JSX apparently. So let's put images in. Google it again. How to include images in JSX. Right, good old Stack Overflow. The Bible. Wrap the source in curly brackets. Put all this because do it. React dash logo PNG. PNG. I remember saying you can use width property in the previous lessons. Width equals 3. First off, let's just copy what he did, what Bob did. Putting the JSX straight in there. React DOM render. See if that works. Yes! My God, it worked. As did the image. Right, now we need to remember how to call this function in the render method. Let's just try that. No. What was our message? Ah, is that a clue? Backed. Is it back to it? Come on, JSX, what was it? I don't want to go back. How to call a function in JSX in React. Call a function in React. Ah, I forgot return. Return. Shit, where does that go? that. Take them brackets. Turn in the whole thing. I guess so. Parentheses. Use my arse. Right. Yes, this is looking good. I'm confident this is going to work. So, I'll try and teach people. They say it reinforces your own learning. So, that is enabling JSX. That is enabling the React DOM variable, which comes with all its methods, like render. I think this function contains, when called, will return this chunk of HTML, or JSX, sorry, which is actually just returning a JavaScript object containing all this stuff. Render deals with converting the object to writing the DOM, the HTML into the DOM. Right, so this is the variable main React. I don't know, is it an object? Objects have methods, so he's been calling it a variable, so maybe seek clarification on this. So that's React DOM method, variable, object, sorry. This is the method or the function to write stuff to the page. That's calling the function, list of stuff. That's returning it, this chunk of HTML. And this is where we're going to apply it to on the web page, which is within this div called root. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First proper React component done. Let's see if I was right. Where we go, Bob. Just knock the tunes off a minute while Bob comes back in. No more feeding the ducks. It's in StreamYard, by the way. All right, Bob.
To get started, we need to import React from React. Just
Spelled it
React
wrong.
directly there. And we'll import React DOM from React-DOM. We'll go ahead and use React DOM to render. Let's start with just some inline JSX here. We'll say it's working. And I need to select my root element as the place to put this H1. Hit save as a sanity check, and we know it's working. Awesome. Now the meat. We are going to create our own custom page component by using a function called page, using a capital letter to begin. And this function is simply going to return some UI, or in other words, some JSX that we can put in the page. Just as another little sanity check, I'm just going to remove the H1 here and put it inside my page component, and then render my page component as we've learned. And I refresh and everything is still working. And just to make sure, I'll just make a change. I'll say it's still working. Okay, so now the next part. We are going to turn this into an ordered list. And we'll just put a few list items in here. And let's see, these are reasons that we're excited to be learning React. Maybe for one, it's a popular library. So I'll be able to fit in with the cool kids. This probably has a pretty loose definition for what the cool kids are, but that's okay. Okay, we'll put a second item here. And just so you can see everything, I'm going to move this onto its own line there. We'll say I'm more likely to get a job as a developer if I know React. And hopefully you have some other good reasons. I'm going to leave it at that for now, just for the sake of learning. I'll go ahead and refresh, and there we go. We've got our two pretty ugly, unstyled elements that we have on the page, but it seems to be working. Okay, nice work on part 1 of the challenge. In part 2 of the challenge, which will be in the next screencast, we're going to add a little bit more to our simple page here. However, before moving on, if any part of this was still confusing for you, I really encourage you to go back, try to rewatch some of these videos. You could even start from the beginning. Maybe you'll have some additional context that will help in your understanding. And as always, reach out to the Scrimba community on Discord. If you have any questions, people are always happy to answer. But don't just plow forward if you're still feeling confused. Do some research, rewatch some of the videos, make sure you're doing all of the challenges, and then when you're ready, let's go forward and we'll work on part 2.
Okay, it was good. That was custom components part 1. I'm gonna get something to eat now. I'm hungry. Custom components part 2 coming up. Adios.